are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Sun Show.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning on the solar panel planet. Now, I don't know if that works, but today's solar panel starts with me and Brandon. I'm Dave King. You can find me at brightsideofthesun.com and also on this podcast. And we got with me my podcast partner, Brandon, or Zona Hoops. How's it going this morning, Zona?
Good. Right before starting the show, I was telling Dave we have a nice little Woj bomb that we can get into. Just, it wasn't the Woj bomb we thought it'd be or hoped it'd be with a certain someone coming to the Suns. But good to see Monty Williams get that contract extension, get him locked up. So, yeah, I didn't expect that to happen pre-show on a 9 a.m. Saturday morning.
Yeah, right. Imagine if we had recorded this at the normal time of 8 o'clock, we'd have probably missed the entire thing.
Exactly. See, there's perks. There's perks to the time change.
Coming soon on the show, we have a good friend of mine, used to be a media guy in the Phoenix area, and we sat next to each other during the dark days of Suns basketball, and then he's since moved to New York and all that. Travonne Edwards will be joining us soon to talk about all things NBA wide and touch on big trades and stuff like that may or may not happen, what he's heard, what he thinks of the Suns and all that. So he'll be joining us soon. But in the meantime, I thought we would get caught up on things that have happened in the past week, which is not a lot has happened, Brandon, for Suns, but at least something has happened. And really in these coming 2 months, that's going to tell a lot, because generally nothing happens in the dog days of summer. But let's talk about this Monty Williams extension. So he had 2 years left on his deal, his 5-year deal. The Suns played 3 years under Monty Williams so far. They have increased their win total by at least 10 every season. They're one of the few teams that have ever done that in history. And one of those, of course, you could say was enhanced by the fact that there was only a 72-game season in year 2. But shoot, going from 19 to 34 to 51 to 64 wins is a pretty big advance. And so, of the team. And despite what happened in the playoffs, that shows really well. All right, we are going to invite Travonne in. Good morning, Trey. How's it going, man?
It's afternoon here, but good morning, y'all.
Good afternoon. How's it going?
It's good, man. Can't complain. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I was just telling Brandon that you and I used to sit next to each other.
Next to each other on the Suns beat. Yeah, for sure.
On the Suns beat, and that was dark times, man. That was where we had to do our own color commentary to fill in.
What was the time frame of that? Like what years?
It was the year before CP3 got there.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
I was bad luck. I just had to leave, and then I think the Suns were able to turn it over right after I left.
Well, we appreciate you taking the fall for that. No,
nice one.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. Ice Trey, yes. Hey, so tell me, Trey, what you've done since you left the Phoenix beat.
Man, I'm here in Brooklyn. It's been very interesting the past 2 years with the Nets.
I'll bet.
But it comes with the territory, whether good seasons, bad seasons, etc. Super, from the far, still rooting for the Suns and, wishing everyone, success on that end. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just watching the NBA closely, trying to continue to have passion about the sport, just because of rumors and things of that nature kind of pushes me away, especially off season. Like when you're covering 82 game season and plus, it's a little taxing, and when it's like rumor driven or, these different things that are taken, that gets legs, and now you have to drag out the narrative for months. It's like you don't really get a real vacation. And
No.
With the age of information, fans like get almost obsessive with things. So me personally, unless it's something that I really have to talk about, I normally stay away from it until training camp.
Hey, man, that must be nice. That must be nice. That's great. Not unfortunately. I'm one of those addicted ones. I can't get enough. I can't get away. And even during the off season, I got the website and this podcast and all that. But I only do those because I want to, right?
Right.
And even though there's not much to talk about, as a fan my whole life, I spent the entire year thinking about basketball, whether they were playing or not, wondering what was happening. And so I yeah, I'm one of those guys who cannot get away. So it's cool if you're able to. Now you've been covering the Nets for a couple of years. You've been away from the Suns, but you were there for DeAndre Ayton's early years in Phoenix.
Yes.
And then you've seen obviously what's happened from afar across the country the last couple of years. Tell me what I want to start with Ayton, and then we'll move into other big names. Tell me what you think of the whole Ayton thing. What do you think was going to happen, and what do you think is going to happen going forward? Like, what's going on there?
I think that DeAndre Ayton is, a talented guy. I think sometimes expectations and frustrations kind of meet there, especially as fans. You want to, you feel like this guy is there to take it over the top. And then sometimes you feel like, what's happening? Is he declining? Is he not succeeding how he's supposed to succeed? And he has all these intangibles, but he's actually had good games. I think that just sometimes, when you think about the best at his position, they're way more skilled. They're way more used too. In their offense and involvement. And I think that sometimes he doesn't get the credit that he solely deserves, especially as an option 2 or option 3. You know what I mean? So, I think he plays his part to where it should be. And then I think him going through the Arizona pipeline, whether it's high school to college to professional, it's all he knows. And he just wants to be treated like it's home, like how Book don't even have to Book don't have to even look at the contract. It's already signed. The money's already printed. He just needs to show up because he's already bought into the community. He's invested the time. And I think DeAndre has done the same. But when you look at it as far as Sarver, should I pay him? You know what I mean? He honestly wrote his own, the Suns kind of avoided having to pay him what he really was worth.
Yeah.
It was all right, cool. Yep, we're going to let you do this.
You go get that money.
You go get that money.
And then we'll say we'll pay it.
And then we'll pay it with showing what you're really worth out there, what other people think you're worth. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't crazy because he probably would have made more if they would have just said, all right, you know what? We're not even going to let this do it be a thing. And we're just going to nip it in the bud and just sign it. Instead, brilliant on the front office. Sorry, DeAndre, you got to go through this, but we're going to let you, go out there and see who really wants you. Okay, Indiana wants it. That's the number we're going to place over your head at that point. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it messes up a future Durant trade there. Can't be moved. Now he's locked in.
Yeah.
Can't be moved. So it was do we just build off of this team? Which I do like. I don't think that you have to make a lot of changes. I think as fans, you get anxious and you say, I really want this to happen right now. This is, the loyalty loosens up. It's hey, sorry, no hard feelings. And it's no, you guys are right there. It takes time. It takes time.
So we've got it in the chat. We've got Jam Paul Edward de Dios. Good morning. He goes, the difference between Ayton and Book, except Book hasn't tested positive for PEDs, and Book has some bad games, but engagement is not an issue. So fans are still really holding some particular things against DeAndre Ayton. Do you think that he brings that on himself as far as his personality and all that, or do you think he deserves all the criticism that he gets?
I mean, it comes with the territory. I mean, you get paid the big bucks. Fans are allowed to express their feelings about it. I mean, Dave, we were there during the 25-game suspension. It looked like it was starting to build into something. And then obviously that happened. And, went on this 8-game winning streak, and then they ran into the Lakers, and then we were like, oh, you know, and it was kind of flashes in that. And then they went into the bubble and then built up where they are now. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, Book has never did that and other things, but to be fair, this guy is still young. He's still upside. He's still one of the top 10 big men in this particular, this group. And, as far as talent level. So, I mean, I'm not really stressed about it. I think that he's going to continue to get better. I just don't know if it's going to get to the level that Suns fans want him to be.
Yeah, there's the same commenter followed up with Nets never wanted DA. Now, this is true.
Mm-hmm.
The DA in the situation that we have this year, where he was a restricted free agent, sign and trade, only worth half of what he was making, blah, 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 in trade, really complicated everything, would have hard capped the Nets if they had acquired him in a sign and trade. Let me rewrite history just a little bit for you for a second, Trey. And I know you don't 100% know the answer, but I'd like your insight into what you think the answer would be. Let's pretend for a moment that a year ago, DeAndre Ayton's camp was open to this exact contract as an extension a year ago, and he wouldn't have been a restricted free agent this summer. He would have been under contract for the $30.9 million going forward with let's say it was 8% increases, but under contract. Okay. Not the full 5-year, but a 4-year. So he's not one of those designated rookies that couldn't have been aggregated with Ben Simmons. Let's just say it's exactly what the Suns had wanted a year ago, which was basically this contract, except signed a year ago. Let's pretend that happened. Do you still think the Nets don't want anything to do with DA?
I mean, it's so many hypotheticals because I don't even think Kevin Durant will want out. And I still don't even really think that he wants out. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a story that just kind of got legs, and like, just let it do what it do. You know what I mean? Like, you have yet to talk about this. This player has yet to express anything. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, oh, well, they do have a relationship. They have a relationship. He's cool with everybody at this point. You know what I mean? If you really want to Photoshop him into any jersey. And I understand frustration because when your team is kind of tied up to it and it seems like it lines up of like, oh, we'll give him Cam Johnson or we'll throw in Mikal Bridges. Sorry, Mikal Bridges, but this is Kevin Durant. We love you, but this is Kevin Durant. And you get it in those situations of like, hey, let's just make this happen, or you the person who ruined this deal for us. Not necessarily. You know what I mean? So I do get it. But I just don't. I think if the deal's done, you get a different DA. I don't think that there's frustration. I don't think that there's other things. There's a happy person. You know what I mean? Like, it's I want to come to work because I'm rich. I've been compensated. It's like you two doing a pod and no listeners actually give you positive feedback. It's constantly negative, right? And you don't have a why. Why am I showing up? You know what I'm saying? Like, compensate him. Make him feel like he is supposed to be here instead of like, well, I think I was doing everything right. We went to the finals. I played decent. What else do you want from me? And then it's like, oh, I wouldn't pay him that money.
Especially if you see them doing that with Book, with Mikal Bridges, with Landry Shamet, who had never played a game.
You got to sit around and watch all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The funniest part of that whole Ayton thing too is like when you first signed that contract, I know there's a picture of him and like one other person in the front office that wasn't Jones or Sarver. And Suns Twitter is freaking out saying, why wouldn't Jones or Sarver be there for this? Like when Booker was surrounded by the whole front office. And then like 2 minutes later, the Suns social media like puts pictures of him with Jones and Sarver. So just kind of funny, like the whole.
Yeah. Well, that was his agent that was.
Oh, you talking about that's my good friend Nima. You know what I mean? You met Nima, Dave, with me.
Did I?
We were watching. We watched DeAndre work out one time before the game.
Yes.
Yeah,
I knew that was his agent, but people were all like, "What is that? Some dude making sure DeAndre puts his name down, holding him hostage?"
Yeah, no, man. DeAndre actually, Nima actually used to represent Kelly too at that time.
Mm-hmm. Kelly Oubre. Did you see pictures of his wedding, by the way?
Amazing. I think that's probably the most iconic Instagram.
If y'all get a chance, look up Kelly Oubre's Instagram and look at his wedding that he just had. It's spectacular. Of course, just like you would expect. The only thing we didn't see was the white unicorn horse, that he left behind when he got traded.
Hey man, he's the reason where you guys are. Shout outs to him. He's the fallen soldiers. Me, Kelly Oubre. Who else had to go? We had to go.
Ricky Rubio.
We had to go.
Y'all had to go so the Suns could get good.
I even got sad seeing Frank the other day sign with somebody. You know what I mean? I was like, Frank
man,
was
Atlanta's
our guy.
picking up Aaron Holiday and Frank.
Yeah,
we're gonna miss Frank. He was a good dude. He just couldn't play. Hey, so let's I think I went through everything I wanted to on Ayton. Do you have other questions? Any other questions, Brandon, or topics you want to talk about with Ayton?
I think we've just about covered it at this point. There's only so much you could talk about, but I will say just like the whole not bidding against yourself thing, like we were kind of talking about earlier, like just kind of why would you send him like an offer of 170 million plus when you could just kind of wait on the Pacers. And obviously that comes with the territory of maybe upsetting him, but at the same time, it worked out exactly how the Suns wanted it to. And now hopefully there's no bridges burned and we can just kind of move on with everything.
No bridges burned unless it's being burned for Kelly or Kevin Durant.
I think it worked out at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's all he really wanted to be is compensated. You know what I mean? Like, again, these guys make so much money and that's generational wealth for him and his family. And, in a particular situation, whether the Suns did it right away or played these mind games to, to relieve the cap or whatever it is.
Ayton said in that interview with Mark Spears, he's like, look, I just had to treat it like a business. The Suns told me it was a business. They told me they wanted to re-sign me, but they told me I needed to go through this restricted free agency because, obviously you want the market to be set for you. You don't want to set the market yourself. And he says he understood. I hope there's no hard feelings. I think DA's personality, it's much easier for him not to have hard feelings. So I feel like he's going to be okay. But I do think that, there is going to have to be something worked out between Monty and DA as far as, going forward. But the other variable here is Chris Paul. Chris Paul, his personality is so like in your face. And Amin, you were on with Amin and Tom Haberstroh the other day on a podcast. And I don't know if you were on when Amin was talking about this, but he's like, man, Chris Paul, the first year, everyone's like, oh my God, yes, I want to soak up every word you have to say. You're constantly talking, you know everything, you know it all. Second year, man, that's cool. I just love how much you know. You're always talking, but maybe it's a lot. And then third year, you're like, okay, dude, shut up. And so do you feel like that should be a problem or could be a problem with the Suns, especially with a guy like DA who's been nothing but yelled at for 2 years?
I think it could be a pain in the, it's like a pain in the side, like, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, it's Chris Paul's Chris Paul. He's like hooping with your older brother. Your older brother's going to correct you while playing. And it's like, I got it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Book feels the same sentiment. He's letting Book kind of do a little bit more, but like at the end of the day, you want to respect his greatness, but at the end of the day, he's in the way, and it comes with the territory because they've had so much success. He's the secondary coach on the floor. You know what I mean? He's one of the smartest basketball players in this game. And then he also knows the game beyond, but it's also like, let me figure it out on my own. So dealing with I'm trying to think of all the bigs he's had. DeAndre Jordan. I mean, you can go down the line of people that just are like, like I got it. You know what I mean? But it's just, he's just such a control freak. And the same thing. I mean, you can go LeBron, typical guys that are heavy ball handlers that aren't point guards are control freaks. They want you in a certain place. Stand right there. Don't move. Don't move, or why you didn't shoot it. You know what I mean? And like, as a player who's made it that far without them, it's hard to, you know what I mean? Because you have that mutual respect. You understand how good they are, but then it's also combative. Like, dude, I know what I'm doing too.
Yeah. Give
You
me a
know?
chance.
And I don't think Chris Paul is going to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to take a seat back. You know what I mean? Like, and just chill.
Yeah. My, just as a silly analogy, my wife and I have a great relationship. We hardly ever fight, but there are times where like I'm on my way to do something and she asks me to do it as I'm on my way to do something. And I'm just like, let me do it before you tell me that I should do it. Cause now I feel like and it's like, that's kind of Chris Paul. It's like, if he was already going to do it, Chris Paul will say it on the way. And then he'll be,
You're going to get yourself in trouble here, Dave.
No, she's awesome. She'd laugh.
Think about you two moving in together, right? You and Brandon. The idea sounds great until you see how Brandon lives.
Oh man, yeah, he's got a plant. At least maybe it's a fake plant.
No, but I'm just using this example. I'm sure Brandon. I know what you're saying. It could be. We could flip it, and it's like living with your boy until you don't know
until you're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think
that's why people say don't like move in with your best friends or anything like that. So it's a good analogy.
Okay, let's move on. Now I want to talk about the league as a whole. So first, I have an overall question for you, Trey. You know some of these guys personally off the court. I know I'm not going to ask you to share things that you might know off the court and all that, but to help me understand the overall change in the superstar mentality. So a few years ago, stars were using their expiring contracts as tools to get to the team they wanted to go, right? They were waiting toward the end of their contract. They were signing 1-and-1s, 2-and-1s, all that a few years ago, max money, 2-and-1s, 1-and-1s, so that they could pick their team or force their current team to make the changes they wanted to be championship level. Now they've all decided, I'm going to sign the longest term contract I can and then force my way out. Like the whole Bradley Beal thing, saying, hell yeah, I want to sign for $248 million. That doesn't mean he's committing to the Wizards for 5 years. It just means he's committed to the contract, right? I mean, tell me, how did that shift? Like, how did that happen, do you think?
Well, I think it's a miscommunication between front office and player, because the commitment, I mean, we watched it with Book, where we used to be like, does Book? Remember when it came out? You remember this, Dave, when they were like, "Is Book want to go to New York?" You know what I mean? And we're like, "What? Why would he want to do? He just signed a deal." You know what I mean? And it's like, it's the promise of, "Hey, we're going to fix things. We're going to bring a coach in here. We're going to bring players in here." It's that promise when you're committing long term. Like, don't worry, these are the dog days. They're going to be long gone in a year or two. Just trust us. And I think players buy into that, but also understand, like, I'm going to be filthy rich. But then now you get the pressure. You get the pressure from the fans, because when you live in a city, you get to hear it every day. You get to feel it. Your family members get to feel it. Like, oh, he's not playing well. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, y'all need to pick it up. We paying y'all all this money, and then those contracts don't age well, where the guy's finally turning 30 and you look like he's washed up or thrown out. You know what I mean? And we need a new toy. In this situation. So I think it's a miscommunication with the front office and the player. Like, you paid me this much. I can't control what my body and my game does as I age. You get what I'm saying? So signing a player at 27 sounds amazing until you're paying him $40 million a year at 32.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it boils down to. Like, we're paying for a 32-year-old point guard who can't shoot anymore and he can't defend. And it's like, you were loving it at 27.
Right.
So I think that's the harsh reality of how these things are aging. And like, players understand now how they're looking at the older players who are analysts now as examples, where they played their heart out, they stayed loyal, they did all these things and never seen that type of money. And now it's like, you can be a role player and make as much as any player has made in their career. And don't be, the 10-year plus this. Sooner or later, we're going to start seeing $300 million deals. And fans are even going to lose it even more because it's going to be like, we're paying this dude 60 a year, 50 a year, and we're not making the playoffs or we're barely getting out the first round. And it's just like, this comes with it. Because sooner or later, who's going to, you remember when the Suns were trying to sign Tyson Chandler and LaMarcus Aldridge? Like, this was a big deal. It was a big deal. Like, yo, we could get LaMarcus Aldridge.
Mm-hmm.
How crazy that sounds in 2022 now.
We had a billboard up in downtown Phoenix of Aldridge. Like that's how
that's how crazy it was at one particular time. Now it's an attractive place because you drafted well. But you gotta hope that these players want to be there. So that's why you have to pay these ridiculous contracts to have a real piece when you're pitching. Hey, we got Devin Booker. You see? Yeah. Hey, he got in. Damian Lillard got hurt. You remember that? And he got in as All-Star. And he's like, I'm an All-Star? All right, cool. Maybe you make it this time without somebody getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Took him 2 more years after that to get in without somebody getting hurt. Then that all of a sudden he's first team All-NBA. It's like all you need is the door to be open a little bit. And then you got to take it. And then you get the money. And then you figure out what team you're playing for. Landon Alverson says in the chat, players got to honor their contracts, though. They're honoring the contract. What they're not honoring is the team if the team doesn't hold up their end of the bargain.
I got something for that.
Go ahead.
Fans hate it, right? But my job sent me to New York. I love Phoenix. I love how cheap it is. I love, but it's probably
New York's just a little bit more
It ain't
expensive.
as cheap as it used to be, but it was affordable and nice and the good weather all the time. But I can't be like, can I choose where I want to live? We don't look at it in that perspective that it's still a job. Why can't I not? Why do I have to honor this? Like, the thing is about the honor part, right? When you think about 5 years, it's a long time to be committing your life to one place. Because anything can happen in 5 years. You can have a kid, you can build a family, your kid's been there. And then sometimes, why isn't it? Fans don't look at the two sides of it. Hey, I loved it here, and I got traded to a city I don't love.
Right.
So now, why can't I, in year 2, say, hey, I'm really just not feeling this. Like, let's work out something where you're compensated as well, but you make sure that I'm taken care of.
Yeah.
That's why you get a DeJounte Murray to Atlanta, because we don't want to put you through this rebuild. You've been great to us. We're just going to send you to a place where you can actually compete.
That's rare that a team puts you somewhere good before you have to demand it. Generally, teams just, you know what? I have this guy under contract. I'll trade him tomorrow if I want to, or I'll keep him for 4 years if I want to. Why is it that the player doesn't have any kind of control over it?
And that's why Adam Silver
and you shouldn't have to go to free agency to get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think about this. This was James Harden's first free agency in his entire career.
Wow.
In his entire career.
And he waited until he was 82 to get there.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he never had that option because he was extending. And he just wanted, he could have signed that deal, but he was like, I just want to experience it. I want to feel wanted. Who wants me? Even though he's coming off a not good statistical year, it was just like the idea that someone's going to come meet me and, lay it all out. Even though we all knew that he was going to go back to the Sixers, he just wanted to experience it. No other team called. No one, you know what I mean? But just the idea of hey, I have the freedom to go wherever I want. Not being traded to Houston, not being traded to Brooklyn, not being traded to Philly. Fans never think about that part of I don't really get a chance to actually pick where I want to go.
Yeah.
The trading process is hey, we got these teams. This is the package we got. 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 Which team would you want to go to? Okay, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'll consider this and I'll consider this. Okay, well, such and such has the best offer. All right, I'm letting you know. I'm gonna let your agent know that's where you're going. Now, hey Woj, hey Shams, hey Team PR. Let's roll it out. We've accepted the terms. That's how it goes. You meet with front office. You say, I'm unhappy here, but this is this. and they work it out. It's not like sitting to the north wall and he, it doesn't work like that. The only person I can honestly think about that is Kawhi Leonard, just because it was so much bad blood, and it worked out for the Raptors.
It worked out pretty darn well for everybody.
It worked out for him.
Spurs.
Because he was like, all right, cool. I won him a ring. I didn't really want to go here, but I'm going to play. We win a ring, and now I get to choose in free agency where I actually want to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I know some don't want to hear that stuff.
So let's talk about Kevin Durant a little bit. And again, obviously you can't share too much, but tell me what the mood is around Kevin Durant these days. Has he talked much about it? I've heard that he's shut off a lot of people in his circle and all. He doesn't want to talk about things. Do you think, and you mentioned it earlier, so I want to expand on it a little bit. How strong do you think his conviction is to leave the Nets?
I wish I could answer. I'm one of those that shut out. Like I talk to this dude every day. We don't talk about that at all. I mean, it's not about a happiness. It's not about not happy. Dude's happy. Just living his life, enjoying the offseason, working on his game, getting ready for wherever he may be. And I think he's a professional and he understands how this business works. I mean, Jerry West said it the other day, like about you can't trade him. There's no real price to put on him. Mm-hmm. And fans he'll turn all they want and say, oh, he's getting older and he could do this. He is still, if not one, number 2 player in this league.
In the league.
The league.
Mm-hmm.
He was 4 games away from winning the scoring title.
Yeah.
Like you can't just
I think he had a career high in either assists or rebounds. I can't remember. But yeah, he was his best self this year.
Yeah, but it's an easy target because he actually responds. You know what I mean? So that's why I think that people are so vocal about him instead of the love. Like the same thing with LeBron. Like I think LeBron is one of if not one of the best, because I have my days, right? I look at perfection. I feel like Michael Jordan was the closest thing to perfection in my eyes, right? But then at the end of the day, you look at the talent level, the speed, and everything that's going on. You have to consider LeBron to be to have a seat at the table. I'm not saying that he's the best, but he has to belong at the table. Kevin Durant has to belong at the table because these are demigods basically walking around here. You know what I mean? Like we got the kid from France that's coming next year, that's 7'2" shooting guard. And we haven't seen anything skilled like that before. That's a whole different thing. I mean, we were seeing Ben Simmons at 6'10" handling the ball, but now this kid is 7'2". Yeah. Making the defensive player of the year look silly. And Rudy Gobert. So, these things with Kevin Durant, it's like Jerry West is right. There's no real price for him. Oh, he's turning 34 or he's getting older. He can shoot. That's one thing that's going to always keep him. If he want to do this and that's the thing, he's a young OG. This league, the thing about the NBA, you're not forced out like that. We're going to be faced. Think about it. Trevor Ariza's year 18. That sounds crazy to me.
And he hasn't played well in a while.
But I'm just saying, the idea that you can get to a year 18 as a Trevor Ariza, and Kevin Durant is year 16 at 34 years old. He's been doing it for a very long time, consistently and dominantly. LeBron James has been doing it for a very long time. We're the same age. I'm 37. He's 37, and he's in year 20. Like, think about that when you think about the commitment to one sport. And to say, like, to question and, like, to become slanderers, I think we made it too. Nah, because I don't want to be a fun police. I want fans to still be slanderous if they're in your conference. I think that's more of a legit slander because it's like, boo that dude. And I respect the boos. But, like, if you're outside and you're just trolling and you just want to say that dude's not good, it's like, come on, man. Like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So their asking price is too high. I think it's priced out. Maybe in another year or two, they can consider, and I think it's more of a realistic, like, hey, we'll take a shot. But I still think right now with 4 years left, I know I want more than if Donovan Mitchell is supposed to get, he's in the talks of
Yeah.
6 picks, 6 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell.
That's crazy.
And he's not an all-NBA guy yet.
Right. How do you feel
Durant's
about
gonna
on that topic? How do you feel about all of a sudden teams are trading all their first round picks for established guys like James Jones, for example, the GM of the Suns, has been kind of turned off from the draft for years because he'd rather get guys who are already proven in the NBA, even if they're young, old, whatever, and win games. And the Suns have won more games than just about anybody in the last couple of years. How do you feel about the devaluation of the first round picks by some of these teams?
Well, I mean, no knock to the college talent and the young guys coming out. It's just like you got to throw them through school. It's so hard. It's so hard to be patient because it's such a. What I've been seeing in the past 3 weeks is championship or bust from teams that ain't even won nothing, and they're saying this is the year. I seen the Timberwolves say it. I seen the Bulls say it. I love the Bulls, but it's only a few teams. I think the Suns could say that because they've been to the finals. You can't really say championship or bust unless you scratch the surface.
Right.
The
There's
Nuggets
maybe
can't
6
say
teams.
the Nuggets can't leapfrog the Suns and say, "Hey, championship or bust." You got to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's fair. I think it's just a cliche term to throw out to get your fans excited and sell tickets. But like, you're not there. And if the front office quit on that group, that's on the front office because one player could really, when the Blazers went, they probably would have, when the Blazers went to the Western Conference Finals, they probably would have went to the finals the next season if they don't let a guy like Mo Harkless goes. Like, you can't quit on certain players.
Yeah.
The small little things. Think about Dario Saric playing. He's not like an all-star, but he's important to the nucleus of how this thing works.
Well, they made the finals with Dario Saric playing, his role pretty well. Even when he was doing well, even when he wasn't doing well. You know what I mean when I say that, I think. And he was doing his role, and then he gets hurt. And all of a sudden they had nothing behind him. This past year, they got other depth, but coming back with Dario this coming year, I think that's really important and people are overlooking. We have a question in the chat from Ted Lubin. What's KD like in the locker room? And I'll extend that to real life, regular life, because he's super awkward with the media is the question. What's KD like?
He's loved. He's one of the guys. He's you. He's you. He's you, basically. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't like being around Dave? Like, at the end of the day.
Nobody.
But I'm just saying, like, again, when you're a superstar, when you're a celebrity, it's like, I wonder, right?
Yeah.
But when you're with this, he's just one of the guys. And I think that's the hard thing for fans to grasp too, because it's like, how?
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard because that person wants to grasp normalcy as much as possible. But life just doesn't allow it. You know what I mean? You're larger than life. It's so many players that have gravity. You could never do anything. You can't go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You can't go to a movie. You know what I mean? Like, these things aren't realistic anymore. But he's just one of the dudes. And I think in the locker room, I think he, everybody's seen clips of him supportive of the rookies. He knows every player from the 12th guy to the guy coming up in the G League. He's a basketball junkie. He watched women's basketball, high school basketball, AAU basketball. Davis KD is going to be that should be a great shirt. I mean, but I think that how media has turned in general, right? Our access has been cut. I'm not sure. I haven't been in Phoenix in like maybe 2 years as far as from the media side. But you've been with me where I've pulled guys to the side, like, look, I know y'all about to do this, and I'm going to talk to you how I talk to you. And we're going to go
like
do
a real
this
person,
like a regular person. And there people were like, yo, I've been trying to talk to him for like 6 weeks. And he cut me out. And I'm like, because I'm like really this dude friend, and I don't want anything. I think with how COVID bubble, certain restrictions, us losing locker room access and only press conference rooms has dampened a lot of relationships. So it's not awkward, but the players now have a power of controlling the narrative of how things. How we would just get booked for like 20 extra minutes if we needed. you know, and
Yeah, it
you don't
doesn't happen
get that
anymore.
That's out. It's out. You hey Julie, hey
All those
DC,
hallway things are out. Yeah.
all that's out, and it's different because now they don't have to. They understand we are the kingmakers, right? We say good things about you, or we're gonna say bad things about you, and that can follow you for the rest of your career. Now you can't. This is not a this is not a business of friends. This is a business of transaction.
Yeah.
Hey, my editor's like, I need a story. I need a juicy one. You know what I mean? Like, and these are the things that happen. And like, when you don't have that personal relationship now that it's cut off, where a guy used to talk to you all the time and didn't mind talking to you, it's like, I don't have to explain this, And I think the question sometimes, I forgot who hit on it, but I would love, if you're not a former player, or if you haven't played basketball, or you're not watching the game how everybody else watches the game sometimes, I would love for media to actually learn the game.
Yeah.
Knowing what
We
sets
really
been
should.
called and things of that nature,
Right.
because now the questions get more advanced. The questions are more aligned with the player. I think it's, like it hits like, oh, on that pin down, you look this way. You used to see me pull Book to the side like, hey, why'd you head fake on that? You lost a half a second off that head fake.
Yeah.
And then Dave's looking at me crazy like, you're telling Devin Booker why he shot that. Like, and I'm like, dude, it's a respect of the game. And now you have that connection. It's like, I'm not lost on the end.
Hey man, I still remember you in the Al McCoy media room. I think it was halftime or something like that. We were talking about basketball a little bit, and you showed me how all these guys, these guards, when they're driving, they grab the defensive player's wrist or arm to control them, to get around them, and then they also fake the contact so that they get the call in their favor. And I'm just, ever since things like that, little things like that, because I haven't been playing at that level, obviously. And it's like, oh my God, that happens every single time. All these things, all these little things happen all the time. And the players appreciate it when somebody who's asking them questions actually picks up on those kinds of things. We've got a couple of guys in media here that ask some really good questions these days. And guys like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson are really good at answering like real people. It's been fun being in media here the last couple of years because guys will actually answer questions. DA has no filter. He'll just tell you what he's thinking. He doesn't have any coach speak or, player speak or whatever. But Devin Booker, I want to ask you a question about Devin Booker. Chris Paul says that the main reason he wanted to come to Phoenix was to play with Devin Booker. This is a Devin Booker who had to wait for injury replacements to get on the All-Star team, right? Up until then. And then now Kevin Durant, as strong or weak as his trade request may be, has said that he wants to play with Devin Booker. What is it about Devin Booker that these great players want to play with? What is it about him? Do you know?
Book is just Book, man. I'm really extremely happy that everybody got to see what we got to see at the beginning. You see his preparation.
We've known it the whole time.
Yeah, that's the thing. But it's just, again, good or bad, he doesn't break the mold. He doesn't break the work. Duck walks, the fine detail of shooting, certain things. I used to be screaming, shoot the deep ball, Book. You that would be the next thing that you need to add to your game. The explosiveness, the professionalism. He's always had it. But the thing is, it's just more so to a standpoint of, being well respected on the outside looking in. People, you play these pickup games and you see, and who has real game, but they don't have the support. They don't have the team to lift them up. You know what I mean? And over those the first couple years, he was forced to be a leader. That's not his strength. Chris Paul alleviates him for that. And now he's the leader in the locker room. Book doesn't have to talk. Monty challenges him to play defense and to do what he does best, to lead this team in scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, he's real quiet. He's somebody asked him once, and Monty Williams, they asked, do you think Book will ever be a coach in the NBA? And they both just laughed it off so hard just because no, because all the players who don't follow the little details and do the little things piss him off so much. He has no patience. But we'll see how that goes. Chris Paul, I see as a future head coach in the NBA for sure. Maybe even like a Jason Kidd immediately after retirement, he gets a job.
I could see that.
He's that alpha. Okay, Brandon, I've been talking over you this entire time. I apologize for running you off. Talking over you. Do you have questions on the league, KD, Book, DA, anything like that for Trey?
No, it's been good stuff. Pretty much covered everything. I was I'm probably in the minority here, but I don't know where everyone stands on this, but the whole KD interacting on social media thing, I love. It's something I feel like it's just more authentic than like the whole PR stunts behind like every, player. That it's authentic and real, as you were talking about earlier. So I think it's just, Durant's personality is just something that fans aren't used to. So it just throws them off a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think someone like him and Book would get along great just because that Olympic run, you see how they played off each other. Olympic Book is like the perfect role player, which is like funny to say because he's always been like that guy. But seeing him thrive in a role, like a lesser role, doing the little things like playing defense, rebounding, diving for loose balls. I think Durant saw that and just winning a gold medal together. Like that's kind of where I think that relationship took off. So I would love to see them play together. I don't know if it's going to happen this offseason or when Ayton's eligible to be traded or whenever, but that's a duo that I think a lot of Suns fans would love to see. So just what are your thoughts on that potential duo down the road?
Like you mentioned, I mean, I think Team USA is the level when players come back from camps or getting a chance to compete for a gold medal, they come back with a new focus. Zach LaVine could be another example where you learn how to win basketball games. You understand the sacrifice of what you really need to do. Everybody can score on that team. Everybody on that team can average 20 points per game. What is your part? I think the best example was Kobe Bryant tagged along with Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and these players, and he chose to guard the best player because he wanted to improve his defense. And those are the things that when you go into Team USA basketball, how can you improve? The first time when Monty got hired, 3 things that he told Book was like, trust me, buy in, and I'll make sure that you become an all-star. Well, it all happened. He doesn't buy in. We don't have Aaron Baines listening. We don't have guys like at the particular time DeAndre Ayton listening. You have to have your main guy buy in for everybody to get in line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's a thing also about Book that I think is maybe underappreciated. For one thing, I think the reason great players want to play with Book is because they know Book isn't going to take anything from them. Book's going to help them succeed and do the best they can. Book actually, I'm pretty sure, not 100%, but I'm pretty sure he had a career low number of touches these last 2 years per game, but he makes the most of them, and he doesn't get in Chris Paul's way. He doesn't make the game about him. And great play, and everything is about winning, like you said, like Kobe Bryant when he got on the Olympic team. He was like, okay, fine, I'll just play defense. I'll take the other team's best player, even though Kobe could have led the Olympics in scoring. Devin Booker, even that one, it was not the best Olympics year when Book and Kevin Durant played, but Book decided to play right after coming off the finals, decided to play a small role where he was just defending and playing. He played the second most minutes, I think, on the team behind KD, and yet barely scored and didn't care that he wasn't scoring. He just wanted that gold medal. That's what I think guys love about playing with Devin Booker, is that he's willing to do what it takes and never complain and never say, I need more shots, and never say, he just makes the most of every opportunity. And they love that.
It took him back to UK.
Yeah, right.
That's
1 year at the UK. Yep.
That's where it is. He came off the bench. You have to think about this. A lot of people forget and just think that, it was just handed, or, he was doing this, that, and the third. Nah, I mean, he knows how to play basketball. He's a very smart basketball player. He knows how to approach the game. And I think he's going to continue to make all-star teams because he's learning how to be effective and be the best player on the court without taking shots. Whether it's, drawing the attention and finding an open teammate instead of taking the early. Because you look at early Book, 70 points, the look offs, taking questionable shots, that wasn't there. Now he's actually trying to defend. You don't never hear, oh, Devin Booker's a poor defender. It's effort there. You know what I mean? And he understands what it takes to win, and the proof's in the pudding. They've had like 2 of the top 5 records in the league in the past consecutive seasons. And it all started from buying in the bubble. They got closer. Monty brought guys. That's another thing too. Monty's bringing in guys that, as an assistant coach, he believed in them. Campaign was left for dead.
Yeah.
And if Suns fans looking like, he's bringing in Campaign
Monty had Cam for a year.
But he also knows how to get the best out of Cam. And when you got somebody that believes in you, whether I make a mistake or not, I'm going to play my heart out for you. Landry Shamet, another guy.
I was going to say Landry,
These are, when you think about guys that they brought in, they're questionable at the time, but at the end of the day, they fit. And it's similar. Yeah. And all Monty does is take every place that he's coached under and put it all into one, whether it's Philly, San Antonio, New Orleans. And now, you think about it when he had Willie, he had Chris Paul. These are people who are a part of his system. This is the multiverse of Monty Williams. And now it's just
I love that. The multiverse of Monty. Yeah.
Hey man, give me my credit on the headline.
Ooh, I will. That's awesome.
But it's real. You know what I mean? You see the success go down the line, and why the Suns are having that success, because they know what type of players. Everybody can't play for the Spurs.
Right.
You have to be a certain caliber of guy to be there.
Right.
And if you don't buy in, you're shipped out.
Those guys are the ultimate egoless. Suns fans used to just hate the Spurs for winning and losing reasons. But after the Suns became less of a contender, and I just started watching the Spurs for actually being a basketball team, that is the standard you dream of having. Tim Duncan never made it about him. Tony Parker never made it about him.
If he's a first option on another team, 30 a game.
Right. But he never cared about that.
The stats would be shattered. Yeah. If he goes to Orlando in 2000, what? He's averaging 33.
But by then he knew that he was better off being with the Spurs than going to Orlando.
Empty basketball,
It's not about leading. It's empty basketball. Yeah, right.
I think he's the most underrated player of all time, honestly. It pains me to say it as a Suns fan, because we used to be tormented by him. But in the all-time list, he needs to be higher. I just think what he did was incredible for that long.
But Brandon, that's the respect you have for him.
Yeah.
I think as a fan and people that have been in your way, when you boo a player, a boo is out of respect. It ain't hate. It's out of respect. It's just like, hey, I want this dude to play the worst game because he normally averages 25 against us. But it's a sign of respect. I don't say, because if you take away boos, then you take away the passion of the game. I'm not saying that, but I just think sometimes we confuse the passion and trolling. Because some people are just like, oh, he's a bum. And it's like, nah, he's not a bum. He's just giving your team the fits and y'all tired of him, So
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Because Utah was your Spurs, right? In
What's
the past
that?
couple of years, Utah has been y'all Spurs, right? Where y'all have kind of tussled with since the Spurs have been
but the Suns could beat Utah, so it wasn't really the same. It's the team you can't beat. Who's the team? Well, Golden State is kind of our Spurs now. It's tough to beat Golden State when it matters. Okay, let's transition into a true-false section. Now, this is just making predictions, hot takes. Give your thoughts behind your answer, but otherwise, we're not gonna delve too deep into these. This is just, if it happens, it happens. So first, true-false, and we'll start with Brandon. Brandon, true-false. Donovan Mitchell is going to end up with the Knicks for 6+ draft picks and players.
I'll go true. I think so. I think the Knicks are a little desperate right now to make a splash after regressing from that breakout season. So I think their fans are a little impatient, and they're going to take a swing. And the Jazz are just trying to acquire an Oklahoma City Thunder amount of picks. So I could see them pulling that trigger eventually.
What do you think, Trey?
No legs. False.
No legs.
No legs. Unrealistic acts.
Because they're wanting too many picks, and the Knicks are not going to want to give that up. I mean, Minnesota kind of ruined it, right?
Oh yeah, like, that trade.
That just ruined everything.
That set the bar a little too high.
Yeah,
Minnesota
it put it too high. But that's Danny Ainge. That's Danny Ainge, man. You got to give credit to Danny Ainge. He's give it 3-4 years. Utah's going to be like the Boston Celtics again.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yes. That's why he's doing a whole. It's doing a whole
right picks.
They're doing a whole cultural reset on purpose.
Right. Well, the thing is, exactly, when they hired Will Hardy, I think is his name, Will Hardy, to be their head coach at 34 years old, you knew the entire rebuild was about to start. So I think Donovan Mitchell does end up leaving this summer, but I'm going to go with you, Trey, and I'm going to say there's no legs on the Knicks thing because right now they want too many picks. Maybe if it drags into training camp, maybe that ends up happening then. But I think it's going to end up being something a lot more convoluted. He may end up being included in a big 3-4 way deal that includes the Nets too. So we'll see. I think there's more legs on that than there is going. I think if he was going to go to the Knicks, it would have happened by now. That's my thoughts. Okay, next true false, and we'll start with Trey this time. Ben Simmons starts next year on the Nets.
True.
On the court.
True.
Oh, wow. Okay. It'll be the first time he's played since passing up the layup. So Ben Simmons, you think he's going to start next year on the Nets. Do you think he's a good mix with Kevin Durant, assuming they don't end up making that change?
Yes. 6'10" point guard. Still very effective on defense. First team all defense, first of all. Yeah. I think like trolling and off the court things have distracted and made people forget how good Ben Simmons is. He brings so much other things to the table. And when you're playing with a talent like Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, come on, man. They definitely could be in contention of winning a title. Like we're not going to do this.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of I'm just going to quick aside before I ask Brandon to answer that one. DeJounte Murray gets traded to the Hawks. Mm-hmm. DeJounte Murray is another kind of like that kind of Ben Simmons where he does everything, but he doesn't need to score. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a good fit with Trae Young, or do you think how do you think that fit's going to be with Trae Young?
I think Deontay Murray is, tongue twister. I think he is coachable. Coming from the Spurs, I think you can put him anywhere. I think that it's going to be very exhausting trying to relieve sometimes the defensive abilities to pick up a certain guy or guard the best player. And they'll ask of him certain things. I'm not sure if they're going to take Trae off the ball and run him as like a smaller two. But would be good, kind of how Golden State does with Steph, where Draymond brings the ball up and then you kind of run him off a couple actions and things of that way. But I think they can coexist in the East. I don't think they win, to get pretty far, but I think that they, that it can work out.
Okay. Brandon, thank you. Brandon. So first, does Ben Simmons start the year on the Nets?
Yeah, I agree. I'll go true on this one. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense to trade him while his value is low. And I think there's still a lot up there with his passing, his defense, and yeah, I'm gonna go true.
And what do you think, since we talked about it, what do you think of the Murray-Trae Young combo?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take some time for them to figure out that sweet spot. Like we saw, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, for example, it took them a little bit of time to gel. But I think once they figure out, how to play off each other and click, that it could be a really dynamic duo that it's just going to take some growing pains, I think, early in the season. But once they click, I think that's going to be a fun duo to watch. I don't know if I want to put them in title contention just because I think they have a lot of defensive issues to worry about and some size that, if Capella could stay healthy, then, I think that's the key. He's kind of their X factor, but yeah, I like the duo. I think it's a good swing from the Hawks considering their position they're in. But yeah, that should be a fun league pass team for sure. Coach
Fallen Founder has a great question in the chat. Who's the better duo next year? Murray and DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, or Cat and Rudy Gobert? Who's the better duo? Like, who fits better on the court next to each other? Trey, what do you think?
I'm going to go Cat Gobert. I think that Cat gets to play a little bit of power forward and spread the floor. He's got high praise, from his outside game. And I think that creates a little bit more, and we get to see a little bit more of Cat. I think Cat's just not likable. Both of them aren't likable. That's the funny thing about it, being paired together, personal-wise. But basketball, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be kind of not as flooded as people think as far as spacing. But I do like a spread floor Cat, being able to have that island work of 20 and in or 20 and out, being able to shoot a three, in that space. And then also Gobert on the defensive end. They needed defense so badly that they patched these things up. So definitely one of those things that work in their favor, you know what I mean? And Anthony Edwards is Anthony Edwards. I think he takes another leap too.
Has anyone made a worse commercial than Cat with that 2K commercial where he gets beaten really bad by a dude who doesn't know how to play basketball? He's like, oh, that's so hard. I understand the concept behind the commercial, but has anyone else made himself look worse? That's
yes. I didn't really love the Zach LaVine Mountain Dew.
No, that's terrible too. That's that's annoying.
Oh, Paul George Gatorade. That's number one. The game-winning shot. He doesn't make them in real life.
Yeah, true.
I love Paul George. I think Paul George gets disrespected as well, but that wasn't like a real scenario. Like,
obviously
he knocks down the game winner and then he drinks the Gatorade. Like, I'm like, who thinks it is? Like, this is
it's almost as bad as I'm going to Disneyland.
These marketing teams need to step up, man. Some of these, I don't know what's going on.
They're bad. All right, let's go. Next, true, false. We'll buzz through these. Sorry to keep everyone over. I appreciate your time, Trey. Kyrie Irving goes to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook, which means Westbrook may end up playing with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. What do you think of that?
It's on me?
Trey. Yeah, it's on you.
False.
Where do you think Kyrie Irving plays next year?
Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah? You think it's all staying together, huh?
Yes.
Zona, what do you think?
Again, the asking price is too high.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to take Russ West for that. I'll tell you that. No one's going to trade. No, like, the Nets are not going to take back Russell Westbrook for Kyrie.
Yeah, what's in it for Brooklyn at that point? I agree. I'm going to go false. I think maybe if there's like a crazy 4 or 5 team trade, I could see like some separate assets interesting Brooklyn to where they're like, all right, we can flip him if he really wants out. But I just don't see why Brooklyn would take on Westbrook for, a downgrade without getting a significant return.
All right, final one. We'll jump to the final one because we are running late here. Final true false. If the Suns acquire Durant, let's just for the moment assume they trade him for Mikal, Cam Johnson, and as far as their own team, I don't know how many teams are involved in this, but as far as leaving the Suns, Mikal and Cam are gone. Do the Suns win the West, adding Durant to Book and Ayton and Chris Paul, and then whatever's left over of their rotation? Zona, you start.
I think so. I mean, I think that's the goal. You add someone like Durant and get to pair him with Booker and Ayton and CP, then you're right up there with Golden State. The Clippers, obviously, if they can get healthy, they're still right there. And, the West is getting better, so there's no guarantees at all. But I think if you have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre, you've got as good a shot as anyone. So I'm going to go true.
Trey, what do you think?
I have to agree with Brandon.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You think if they get Durant, so they're kind of top heavy, That's what would happen. They'd end up top heavy instead of the deepest team in the league. They'd be probably the best 4-man group in the league. You think that takes them to because I think in the playoffs, your best players are the ones who get you to the finals, not your depth.
Yeah, no, plays get thrown out. All that stuff gets thrown out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's who can get it done, who needs it, who wants it, And I mean, we've seen it with Curry. At the end of the day, he stepped up despite how Boston played the best possible game they could play.
And he still did it.
And he still did it. You know what I mean? Like those certain talents, when they're put in those positions, they just take it over. Like, all right, let me quit playing.
Yeah.
Let's lock in. And that's what wins it. I was watching Bulls Utah where he rips Malone and then they're down 1 and he has to create this shot. And then, it's the push, obviously, but just being 85-86 with that pressure, like think about it in 2022, a player, think about like a Chris Paul ripping somebody or LeBron ripping somebody or Durant ripping somebody and then having to come down and score. You just made a defensive play and then now no timeout. I'm trusting you to win this game. It's very rare. It's very rare that a player just goes into it and wins the game. And I think Michael Jordan does not get credit for enough credit for being a straight serial killer. A serial killer behavior.
Yeah. It's just it was just
you cannot make that up.
Blooded. No player has ever been that cold-blooded.
Like it keeps playing in my head. Malone loses the ball. He gets the ball. The clock is rolling down. Phil Jackson, there's no looking to the side. What should I do? It is 1-point game. Mike misses it. We get a different type of story.
Well, Suns fans will tell you 93 finals, game 6, Suns had the lead. And with seconds left, Jordan gets the ball, open court, never looks to the sidelines, just drives into the teeth of defense, kicks it out to Paxson for that win. That's just cold-blooded right there. Okay, so final round. First of all, tell us where we can find you, Trey, and then give us your one crazy, bold prediction you think will happen between now and opening night that we haven't talked about yet, if you have one. For first, tell us where to find you, and then tell us something we don't know.
You can find me on Twitter at Travonne, as below listed, at Travonne Edwards, on Instagram, the Athletic podcast with what's the Athletic New York Times now. And then you also can find me on Spotify. I have a show called Overthinking It. It's not all sports, so it's like a lot of things. And then my bold prediction would be that the Orlando Magic make the play-in.
Oh,
I like it.
Chet Holmgren carrying the team to the play-in.
Well, no, that's Paolo.
He's on OKC.
Oh, Chet.
Paolo.
Yeah. Sorry about
Paolo.
that. Chet went to the Thunder. Oh, my God.
Paolo,
the
yeah.
The skinniest team in the league. Yeah,
I borrowed that take. I borrowed that take from a friend, but I like it. I like
They got an awesome core over there. They're going to be very good.
All right. What about you, Brandon? Tell us where we can find you and then make your hot take.
All right. You can find me at ZonaHoops _ on Twitter, brightsideofthesun.com, zonahoops.com. I like the Magic pick, so I'll kind of stay on that train of thought. And I'll say the Sacramento Kings are going to surprise some people and get that last playing spot in the West.
The Kings?
The Kings. Mark my words.
The Kings.
Yes.
You know what I read this week that just blew my mind? And, of course, I saw it on Twitter, so I didn't verify it, but it's gold because it was on Twitter. No one ever says anything wrong on Twitter. Not one active NBA player has ever played the Kings in the playoffs.
I saw that. Yeah.
That's nuts.
You wanted a bold, crazy take. There it is. I think they're going to break the drought. They'll probably lose in the first playing game, but why not?
All right, man. I do not have your confidence in Sacramento. Okay, my bold prediction is that on the first day of training camp, the Suns have made 0 roster moves because they're just waiting. They're frozen in place, waiting to see what happens with Kevin Durant. We don't know what's going to happen from there. They could just gel and be the same team they were if they don't get Durant and just be great again for another year. Or we could see them kind of like falling off. I don't know. But my bold prediction is we won't see a single roster move between now and training camp because they're waiting out Kevin Durant. All right, folks, I'm Dave King. You can find me at Twitter at DaveKingNBA. You can find my written work, which is even better than this, at brightsideofthesun.com. And you can find, obviously, these podcasts every Saturday. So thank you all so much. Oh, God, Coach, do not ever bring up Whiteside again on this. I'm not going to let you be a guest on the show if you want Whiteside. Next, I mean, people are probably disappointed Andre Drummond's already signed with somebody. Okay, we'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a great Saturday, and we'll talk to you again next week.